start. As usual, for me, the first build was a mess. It's always been like my entire life. I put out a first release, and it's buggy. It's full of weird stuff, issues. That's just how it is. That's just how I work. It's just my work environment. A lot of my friends and people I know who I trust to do early tests for me, they're not available as much anymore. They're all busy. So I can't guarantee everything's going to work properly. I can't guarantee certain performance things are going to be proper or correct for everybody. So you have to take a leap. You have to take a leap of faith, and put something out and have people tell you that shit ain't working for me. I spent a lot of my earlier optimizations on the CPU. I ignored a lot of GPU stuff because I assumed it was low in the graphics, and I just don't do a lot of. I've never done like 3D rendering really ever. Most of my work in the past has been in 2D, and so I never expected the amount of issues with the rendering that I was doing. I should have really have thought about this, but it's a lot of the works on my PCTM kind of stuff that were like, I look at them like I don't have like a high-end system. My system's like old. I think like my CPU I bought in like 2016, maybe 2017. My GPU I got maybe 4 years ago. So I mean I don't have like a high-end system. So if there are frame rate issues or everything, I was getting a lot of that pipeline clogging. I thought it was jitter from something else, and it turned out I was rendering stuff at the wrong rate, and stuff like that. I learned a lot in doing that, so it's good. I apologize for people who were expecting something a little more polished. That's the first thing you should learn is that you're dealing with me. You see my videos. I'm not. This is not a release. This is why I'm not on Steam, all these things. I'm just doing, I'm releasing something. It's just like the easiest way to release things that's not just a mega file download, because people aren't going to download your game on Mega. I'm used to doing the file sharing, but people, like, if you want to get people to play your stuff, Mega ain't the way to do it. But I'm happy to see that I was actually surprised about the responses I got, because I got a lot of people who responded who I didn't expect anybody to actually play it. That's why for the 1.1 release, I was like, I just want to put it out for me. I need to give myself a deadline, because originally, the original build of this was actually going to be. Actually, I was going to release my planned release date originally, before I took a lot of time to do a lot of optimizations, was going to be the day after Rain Chaser came out. Then Rain Chaser came out, and I played Rain Chaser. I'm like, shit, I need time. And even then, I was still like thinking, but it's like I was really impressed by that. And I've been working on mine for about a year as well. And they're different types of games. It's different stuff. But I felt a little like, oh shit. Well, this is setting a bar that I need to be able to sort of relate to. No, they're different things. Rangers is 1 level, 6 minutes with much else. Mine is 3 levels. The mechanics are different. Everything's different. But at the same time, I was really driven by what Cornod did to make it better. And I spent the next however months just trying to work on it, making everything, fleshing out stuff, trying to get everything to work properly. And in the end, I set that 1.1 date just to say this. I work on this stuff day after day after day after day. Like in December, I was working 12-hour days, and then I would come home and I would just work for 4 hours or so on what I could do on the game. Then I go to bed, and then wake up, go to work. Same thing every day. And so, I'm not saying, oh, you can forgive me for putting out a shoddy product because I work so long. But I mean, at the same time, I have limited time to do things. And often, when you're doing a lot of optimization or bug fixes or debugging and stuff like that, it takes hours to find a solution. It can take 2 hours to find something that really, in hindsight, should have been a 15-minute thing to find out. But at the same time, you have to look at the issue from so many angles. It's really hard to debug stuff sometimes, especially when there's so much stuff going on. There's so many interactions. So, I mean, look, I'm not asking for money, so I don't care. But I don't want anyone to be like, they download this thing and they're like, oh shit, I was hoping it would be way better than it was. Like, no, this is gonna be fucking garbage. It's gonna be garbage for a while. Just, you have to accept that. I've had no public testing, so it's just how it is. Anyway, What I'm trying to do is I put out that demo thing, whatever, it doesn't matter. What we're gonna do for every major release is we will have a sort of build cycle discussion, and this is what this is. I will explain all of the things that I've done. I'll put some video footage in showing the changes and everything, so people can see, like this is what's happening. This is what's changing. This is what I'm working on, and hopefully that'll get posted on the page. I'll have like a devlog thing with like a post or whatever. It'll link to a form, like a Google form, for people to leave comments about their experience of the build. And that's the best process for me. That's how I used to work in the past. I've been a hobbyist person for a long time, and usually hobbyist stuff, it's like based on forums or stuff like that, where people give direct feedback based on situations that appear for them. Especially, I'm used to really like wonky module setups where Mugen, where different characters will create different situations that you'd never see before, because it's not a full game environment. It's a very variable environment, and I'm used to things breaking like all the time, and I'm expecting that. I'm expecting something to break. So I've rather thick skin. From years of things I make just breaking randomly, and me looking at them like, how did that break? Why? So I've been working away, and I know I've been like, I think I haven't logged into my account in a while. This is like my secondary account. My main account I watch videos on, or I watch YouTube on, is a different one. So if people left stuff, a response or anything, I haven't seen those. I haven't responded to those. I've been busy just like grinding away at the stuff. So anyway, that explains some of my the last 20 days. Anyway, so make some notes. Visuals. I removed the missile, the rocket. It's been kind of weird for me. I like it and I don't like it. I'm not sure. But the logo doesn't have it, and I like how the logo looks, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. I added a little more visuals to how to play, notably where it talks about how when you get hit by the orb, or when you get to 0, you just die and you game over. They put a little visual for that. I spent 8 hours on that today. No, not 8 hours. I spent like 5 hours on that day, because I redesigning that, because that's a kill switch. I had to redesign a separate thing that didn't activate the game over kill switch, and it's such a pain in the ass to do that kind of stuff, because you just got to like manually redo everything to fit that. And I hate programming, man. Programmers are like freaks of nature. They're not normal people. Tap homing shot. It only targets popcorn now, and it will act normally otherwise if they're on the screen. I prefer it this way because it doesn't really do anything for a homing shot to hit an enemy that like doesn't like die immediately. At least in this situation, because the way the homing shot is coded, it'll target an enemy, and if it targets like an enemy that won't die over a suicide orb or something that will die immediately, like a Zako, then it's useless, right? Because you're using the homing shot to deal with a Zako that's in a weird position that will blow up anyway. So, that adds something there. I want to change the base function. The speed's a little weird. It's a little wonky. The effect's not right, but I mean, I'll change that. It doesn't matter. I'm preventing firing for both the player and the enemy orbs when they overlap. This is intended. In earlier builds, you could like farm orb or bullets overlapping on the orb, and you can fire on them. And that was not intended. That was actually a bug that I didn't fix at the time because I didn't write a seal code. It just was like you just needed to seal it when they overlap, but I didn't do it at the time. So I finally did it, and orb sealing is very specific, so it only applies to orbs of a similar size. Larger orbs, like the boss ones, it'll change their patterns, but I haven't really done it that much. I've done it on like the first pattern of the hand for boss 2, but that's it. The rest are unchanged, so you can't seal most of those yet. That'll take some time. I have to go through the code manually and change that. The hold laser now properly interacts with the orb. It's really basic. FX changes, stuff like that. It increases the orb intensity, like the growth of it, without firing back a laser. Hopefully it does, if I didn't miss any code. There are two different functions for bullet and laser. If you fire with the laser and it builds up, it'll shrink back down after the laser ends, and you have to wait for that to go down before you can set up the bullet. And it's kind of like it was what I wanted to do, but I was like trying to, how am I going to code this, and then it ended up working out that way anyway, so it works for me. I don't really care. For rank, some pattern fluctuations have been changed for certain enemies. It's mostly the enemies in Stage 2. I've changed their patterns a bit with rank. I'll probably change them a little further. This is a common pattern as updates go out. There'll be more fluctuations for patterns. What we have now is really basic stuff, and I really want to be able to fluctuate that. I want to create more modularity, more fluctuations, as more gradations, really, with rank for the patterns. I don't want it to be static. I want it to be very fluid. So I'm trying to do that right now. It's not perfect. It's kind of static. It's like 0.5, 0.75, 1.5, all those kinds of stuff. But I might go. I want to set like the baseline, and then in between that, maybe add in something else. Who knows? There are modifications to the support drain rate. It's pretty simple. It's not that crazy. I just changed some how the code worked. It might change based on difficulty in a later build. I'm not sure. Right now it's flat. Like there's no change depending on your difficulty how much it drains. But I think depending on your difficulty it should drain more or less. I haven't decided. For waves, the final wave of Stage 1 had it lagging a lot, and I wasn't really happy with it. It was a lot of frame rate issues and stuff like that. So I changed it out to a different version. It's like an older wave, actually, that appeared earlier in the stage, but I kind of like it, the orb swapping there. So we'll see. I think it's okay. Also important is the boss one's popcorn wave is no longer random. I was getting some FPS drops when I was testing recently, and I was just like, and I didn't really want it to be random at the initially. Initially, I had a lot of random functions in this game, and I really didn't like them because it gave me a lot of I don't know. Metal Black is random in certain sections, and it kind of is really annoying. I like it when games are a lot more, when there are things that are really more consistent. Especially for a game like this where routing is really important, randomness isn't helpful at all. So it also allows for more rank fluctuation in a future build, so I can change all kinds of aspects of those orbs. So the wave itself can be static. It doesn't have to be random. But the aspects within the wave, how long it takes for them to explode, when they explode, how far they go across the screen, all of that can be changed by rank. And I think that gives me a lot more opportunity for fine-tuning than just having a random thing. And I think randomness is kind of like a crutch for game design. I mean, like roguelikes are like that. Like people are like, oh, well, if I procedurally generate everything, then I'll have to make a game. And it's like false. It's like false game design. It's like false depth because like if it's random, then there's like nothing there to talk about. So there's nothing negative to say about it, but there's also nothing positive to say about it. I mean, like you can say like, well, the game is new to me every time because it's random, but at the same time, if it's new to you every time, then the odds are every run you're going to end up in the same position every time and defaulting it like midway through. So consistency is better, but and with consistency you can develop more like fluctuations within certain aspects of that consistency that make it a lot more deep and a lot more interesting than just straight up random. So that's sort of my interest there. So we got a bunch of bugs. How to play practice bug. It's weird. If you play how to play, you fight the boss, and it sends you back to the menu. If you go to practice mode, it sends you back to the how to play thing. I don't know why that happens. I have to look at it. I'm pretty sure there's like a flag that's not being set, and I just overlooked it, but I have to go through the code, and it's really minor. If you kill a laser enemy very early and the laser's still active, despite being invisible, because there's like this point in time before it's visible, where it's active, it can hit you and it won't be visible, but you'll still die. It shouldn't be active, but I'll need to recheck the code. And I'll look for it later, but right now I've been working on optimizations and everything, so I've done that. The support ship gave invul frames after ending, and I fixed that. That was a pretty big bug, and I was like trying to figure that one out. I was like doing that for like a few hours today. I'm like, what is this issue? And I went through like multiple flags. I'm like, why is this happening? And it's like, oh, because the collisions weren't active, and I disable collisions when you go to the ship, and then I didn't re-enable them. It's so simple, but that's what happens. When you get so bogged down in the weeds, you forget this stuff. Now for something that I won't change for a while, Boss 3 has a bullet spawn issue in part 3. It's not, you're not going to see a bug for you personally. It's more for me personally. It's like it limits what I can do with that stage, so I need to work on it. But I just want to list it for sake of transparency. Boss 3 is not full. It's not finished. The beginning, kind of an idea. The middle, kind of an idea. The ending, not even. That ending section, it's whatever. Also, you might be able to kill a lot of bosses pretty fast. There's like some bug where when you go hit them with an orb, they could take like damage over time. If you pull off, like it stops. But sometimes there's some weird interaction where like even after you pull off, it doesn't stop, and I'm not sure why. So who knows? We'll figure it out later maybe. Orb overlap should have an additional effect. I haven't really figured out what I want to do with it, but just like holding onto the orb or firing onto the orb, I mean, like there needs to be some kind of unstable thing that happens. Not sure. Also, lasers right now, the interactions are really weak. When you fire into an enemy laser, you get canceled and they stay. Now, that's not the intended idea. The intention is to have an interaction like everything else should interact with each other. There should be many ways of dealing with all the mechanics, and everybody has the same mechanics, so they should have an equal footing. So ideally, I want your orb and the enemy orb to have the same functions, and I want your laser and the enemy laser to have the same functions. This means that I need to figure out how to do that and make it like not jank. And we know outside of like one game that maybe 2 games, these kind of interactions have always been jank. So I'm trying my best to do that. It's pretty tough stuff to do. I could have just made a compile game, and I'm making this instead. Bits will have some interactions as well. Right now they just absorb bullets and stuff, whatever. The how to play boss will kill you on death accidentally. I need to fix that. That's not a bug. It's just a code thing that I have to do. So optimization, and this is like the big thing. So textures are a lot larger than they need to be for the actual size of the model. It soaks up a lot of GPU memory, and that leads to a lot of processing issue in general. I checked my memory usage compared to like Natsuki Chronicles, and it's about the same. It's about like 680 to 700. So I know it's ballpark now pretty solid. I don't know what it was like before, but all I know is that my VRAM use will shoot up every now and then, but the actual, like, if you look at the monitor, the memory usage seems similar. So, and I think it's more stable now. It's hard to say. I moved a lot of calculations that were like state specific to their own functions as opposed to being always like active, because I have like a really bad habit of making stuff always active, because in Mugen, that's what a lot of stuff would always be active just due to the limitations of the system, and we're used to working around that. And so I come to another system, and I'm like, well, what is going to be active, what isn't active, and what's the cost of that? And if I don't know the cost of it, like in Mugen, it's pretty free to do that kind of stuff because the render cost is really low. But in especially in these engines, especially in 3D engines, the render cost is a lot higher. and especially for things that are ticking off every second, and you have all these other things in the pipeline, so it's not really like stable. And so I had to learn that. I mean, that's something that's like new to me. I've never worked in 3D before. I've only worked in 2D. So, that's just my life. I fixed a lot of lighting optimizations that should save some performance. I fixed a lot of rendering optimizations because it's a pre-render style that's on the fly. So basically, there are 3D models that I shit out. I send out early. They get pre-rendered on the fly, scaled and everything. Shading is put down, and they're baked into the sprite. And I use that, and it's a 2D game with a 3D appearance, but I use that sprite because I want to use the sprite for effects and everything. So the problem was I was putting the models on a really higher resolution and putting them in the sprite. These sprites are tiny; they're not that big. It's a 640 by 40 game, but the stuff was so big, so I had to change some of the render settings. So hopefully it's better now. I can probably change stuff in the future too, obviously. I modified a lot of resources used in background stuff, so hopefully that works. I optimized the bolt deletion when they're off screen, and I added performance mode. Now this turns off glow, and it turns off particle effects, additional particle effects and stuff like that. Not all of them. I might do it later. It's more just a catch-all way for people with lower specs to be able to play this, because I don't think my like setup isn't that like high quality. It's like probably like now like mid tier. Maybe it was like upper mid like 5 years ago, but it's not that high now. So like when I worked on this, I was like, so whatever, it works. But when people say like they have issues with frame rate, it's like, well, what could it be? And it could be many things. And so I think, turn off glow. I'll turn off extra effects like environment stuff, and as issues appear, I'll add. I'm gonna modify it. Maybe I'm gonna make a new menu that we can have like separate graphic settings. Change those around. This can only be done in the main menu because it only gets applied on load. So when the stage gets loaded up, these things get applied. Later, I'll make it. You can change them independently, but right now, nah. Anyway, I have this thing set as windowed naturally because I kind of like the conceit of the 640 by 40 window popping up. Like that's like a classic thing for me. Now if you play in Windows though, and I play in Windows right now, I might switch to Linux at one point in the future depending on how botnet goes. But playing windowed causes stutter naturally. It's not like highly noticeable, but there's always been input lag, there's been jitter playing windowed. You can switch to full screen. It's free to do. You've always could do it. So just be aware of that. Now, I will do mesh optimizations at some point. There's a lot of meshes, especially the stages. Actually, I designed the stages around like actual landscapes. The game takes place in the East Bay. So I grabbed meshes from Google Earth, cropped them out, made stuff so I can get like the hills, the East Bay Hills, right? However, that does mean that there are a lot of primitives of triangles or squares or whatever polygons that are unoptimal, and that needs to be optimized. That might actually lead to a lot of issues for people, and I will be making changes for that in the future. But right now that's like way in the future because that's a lot of work to do. Also, I will be optimizing textures a little more. Right now, they're all placeholders. Everything's a placeholder. I will be redrawing most of the textures in the game. Like right now, I wouldn't sell this game because technically, I can give this game out for free with the textures I use, but technically, I wouldn't be able to. I can't make money off this game, so I'm not going to sell it. But like, I used like pictures of like, for example, the one of the enemies that has the blue and yellow enemy you see, that's the Blue Angels paint scheme, and I kind of took it's not like a non-open source picture, but I took a Blue Angels picture and I did. It's like I'd rather paint a picture, bake in my own kind of like effects if I paint it in. I want to rather paint it in, but it acts as a guideline for what I want. this is still very much, again, this is like 0.030. This is not even like out of beta. This is, I called it a demo, but I mean, it's 3 stages. The gameplay is pretty solid demo-wise. It's just the rest of it's not. All the optimization's bad, the textures are bad, the meshes are bad, but the gameplay is pretty solid. I could have just put out a bunch of squares, and it'd probably be fun. But it's not the same if it doesn't look cool. So it's gotta look cool. If you played this game with squares and like little triangles and stuff like that, it wouldn't be as cool. It wouldn't be as cool, you know? Optimize particle effects a little more. Outside of just outright removing them, I'll make some changes. And that's where a lot of input will help me. I will change how much appears, the timings and everything based on like maybe like scale, gradations or whatever. And also I'm gonna work to optimize like enemy and bullet spawning, because they do still cost a lot to spawn, because I'm not, for various reasons, I'm not pooling. And I don't think I need to pool in the first place. I think a lot of the issues that with spawning came from rendering on the fly, and I fixed those, I think. So it's hard to say. Anyway, there's a lot to fix. There's a lot to do. But you know, but this game's gonna be small. It's not gonna be big. Again, I made it conceptually as a Naomi game. So like most Naomi games are like below like 700 megabytes. Maybe they're like less than a gig. I'm pretty sure like if you download any Naomi game on like Fightcade, it's probably like 800 megabytes max. So I mean, it's never gonna be big. Hopefully, like people, I live my life with like 156k download speed, dial up and shit like that. So like I know how big a thing is. I remember when downloading something that was 30 megabytes was an ordeal. That was 2010 for me. So I'm gonna be honest, like I don't think it's that big. I think putting out updates like this where you have to download like 400 megabytes or something isn't that bad. And hopefully like people don't hopefully people weren't too turned off by the fact that I made a lot of mistakes on the first release. I understand you are. That's fine. If you don't like it, that's cool. I this is just how I work. This is the kind of person I am. I kind of throw shit at the wall and I make it work. And because I'd rather make a lot of mistakes on the way at the early stages of the thing, because I still consider this like maybe a year or two down the line, realistically, because I'm working alone. I don't have a job and everything. I can do all of the mechanics, all the waves and everything, but all of the extra stuff, the art, the assets, the optimization, everything that has nothing to do with just pure gameplay mechanics will take a lot longer than me I could sit in my room and in 4 hours I could probably plan the waves for an entire game. Like, I'm not saying that you'd be good, but I can say I could plan like I already have the next 2 stages mapped out, ready to go. The problem is, it's not about whether they're mapped out in my head. I could write them tomorrow, but that's not. Having them made isn't the point. Having the first 3 stages, which I think are the most important stages in the game, the first 3 stages set up every single aspect of the rest of the game. So they need to be perfect. They need to be down. And I'd rather have a shitty first slice that can be optimized, or not optimized, but can be updated in the future, and then keep working on this and put something out that like quick and dirty that isn't really that good. So anyway, those are my thoughts. If you want to see more, check the readme. The readme has a lot of information in it. Check the changelog. It's more in depth than this, and check the forums on the page for the build. If you have issues, please let me know. I will fix them. I will try to fix them. I will do my best to fix them. Will I fix them? Probably. Unless that's like some game-breaking thing that I don't know what to do. But generally, I can. The only reason I can't do something is only because I don't know where it is. I can't find the thing in the first place. The only thing that you can't fix is the thing that you can't find. So, like, I can try to break the game 10,000 times. It doesn't mean that I can that doesn't mean that's good debugging. It just means that that's what I found. And so things need to go out to the public so they can play them and understand. And then I can understand, oh, you did this. I'm like, oh, I never thought about doing that, and that breaks everything. It destroys the whole thing. That's great. That's good. We need that. All right. Thanks.